What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Meet the. I'm Troy Rawlings, and today we got the music fan first, the crooner, soul soul man, singer, Grammy nominated artist, songwriter, musician. Boy used to rap, kind of do some freestyle. You
Oh,
know, I'm gonna let him take it away. Give it up for Mr. Eric Roberson.
I appreciate it, Troy, man. Thank you. What a great introduction. I like that. Break dancer, house painter, whatever I need to do. You know what I mean?
Is that art
Fantastic.
behind you yours? Just checking.
No, that's my boy Concept. Boy Concept. He did it. This. I'm sitting in my wife's office actually. So,
Oh, nice,
so
nice,
yeah, this is a painting I got for her. As a gift not too long ago.
nice. Well, as I mentioned, we chatted a little bit, and anybody that's been following me from once we started, probably like it's weird. I feel like I just told him, I feel like at least the past 16 years, your music
Yeah.
has been somewhere in the midst of what we did as far as the internet radio thing. And pushing it and the love and I'm pushing love and ain't nobody pushing love music. I know a lot of crooners out there. Sorry, Tank and Tyrese and all y'all. But Hero been doing a little different for a while.
Yeah.
And even with the house music scene. So I'm a Tarantino a little bit. Let's go to the beginning. Where are you originally from?
Originally and born and raised and still live in Jersey, man. I'm from North Jersey, but I live in South Jersey now.
Nice. And I don't know why we always felt like you did a lot of, maybe because you did a lot of heavy hitting shows in the DC, the DMV area.
Yeah.
but you're Howard
Went
University grad.
went to Howard, yeah, HU, So yeah, so of course I spent a substantial amount of time in my life. My career really started in DC. The first time I ever got played on the radio was WHUR and stuff like that. So yeah, DC. I mean, I'm adopted in a couple of cities. I'm not from Philly, but I don't correct anybody if they ever say Philly zone. I'm not from DC, but I don't correct anybody if they say DC zone.
DC
So
zone.
yeah, I spent a lot of time in both areas. So it's all love there.
Now you said how long? Well, let's go all the way back. When did you all the way back? When did you first start singing? When did you realize that you had a voice? First time a little girl might have said, "Ah, wait, is that?"
I mean, I started first time I sang in church was 7 years old, but I think it was more of like that's what we just did. I don't think it was anything different. It wasn't until I probably got in my teenage years, and it was really when my parents bought me my first keyboard was when I kind of shifted and started to kind of take notice. Real talk, man. I was around. My dad was a singer. These church giant voices. My older sister, who really was the artistic one in the family, she played in the band. So I was. It probably wasn't till I got to Howard to where I could really size up my skill level. Even though I went there like majoring in musical theater, I was completely committed to music, but I was probably playing catch up in my opinion because I really didn't have many peers. I didn't grow up with like a boys and men type singing group in school or nothing like that. I had friends who sang. We all just kind of kick it, but it wasn't until I got to Howard where I could kind of measure myself and go, okay, I think I may have something here. I mean, and I don't think it was really from a voice standpoint. It might have been from a writing standpoint. I think I'm still always around great singers. You always something you can learn from singing. But I kind of started learning early on, and my pen moved differently, even at a young age. I was always writing poetry and stuff like that. And I think that was immediately to me what really made a difference when I was comparing myself to other people. I was like, man, that person really sings. Oh wow, okay. I found more people wanted me to write for them. Even when I first got to Howard, I was writing for other people.
Mm. And the hip hop. When did the hip hop come into play? Because it explains a lot. When I was looking back, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, a little hip hop background. Maybe that's why he has the influence and being able to transition the improv part of your stage
Yeah.
performance. It's a big deal.
I mean, I grew up. I remember the magical days of when hip hop, for the most part, was starting. I was a little kid, But I remember my boys' older brothers coming home from New York parties. I remember getting flyers. I remember my cousin playing Lottie Dottie for the first time, and me trying. I was, I don't know, 8, 9, trying to play it cool, like I knew what it was. Like, oh, okay, but I was really trying to figure it out. My Uncle Russ playing White Lines and his caddy in Philly, and like what is that?
What is that?
Just
Right.
trying to, just trying to. So I grew up, doing drum beats on the cafeteria table, rhyming. Before I wrote a song, I probably wrote a rap. I had a rap group in the 4th grade called the Junior MCs, and so I probably it was once again, it was just another thing we always did.
Right.
And then, when I kind of got my career going, we would freestyle all through sound check. We'd freestyle on the drive to Baltimore to do a show, like the whole band ride down. We go on beats and just rhyming and singing, rhyming, whatever. It wasn't something that we did when our name was called and we got out on stage. And then one day by chance it happened, and then I was kind of like known for it. I really honestly, I believe I've really worked it into a system and kind of really developed it more. But it's something that, something I feel like a lot of artists could do. There's certain things that we try in our dressing rooms, we try in sound check that we don't try in front of an audience. But we're taking risks all the time anyway. For me, we get on stage, whether you're playing guitar or you're singing or whatever, you're taking a chance because whatever you are trying might not work.
Right.
But when it works, it's life changing. It's everything. It's always remembered. And I'm willing to take that risk. So I think the hip hop shows up in a lot of ways from that way.
And it takes me and my friends, and I would talk to certain people. 70 Music Brat, when I was in high school, I was making slow jam tape. When all the other DJs were making mixtapes, house music tapes, stuff like that, I was making slow jam tape.
Yes.
But it's funny because I used to talk about how the end of a record, and I don't know why it transitioned in digital. It didn't transition in digital, but remember the end of the record, you hear them, they start putting away instruments, like, yeah. I was like, they still recording. They recording everything just in case anything. He was like, did you stop that tape? Oh, let me stop the tape before we leave. You hearing everything.
I remember the days of like turning it up at the end so I could hear the last little, like trying to get the last little nugget of like, I remember those days, man.
Who's the guy? That's how you find out the band extra guy's name. Donnie, turn that radio on, man. But
Donnie, you went flat on the bridge.
Right.
Donnie, come on, keep it up, Donnie. So no, those are the days, man. I think it's so interesting. I think we had a higher appreciation for music because it was so rare to really get certain things from certain people understanding. And now there's so much information supplied. There's so much music coming out that I don't know if we handle it with the level of rarity that we handled when in the 70s, like we had in the 70s. But that doesn't mean that it's not as good. It doesn't mean that it's not as beautiful or as rare. Still, like there's still, you hear that right song that, the song travels up your back. Like, oh my God, what a bridge!
What is that? Right? What am I hearing?
I still live for that. That's what I try to create every time I go in the studio. And you still, I find artists all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I wrote that. They got that off. So I'm still that kid. I'm still like the same way when we was, getting that Stevie record or a Guy record or whoever and turn up the end just so I can hear a little bit more. I'm still that way with music, man. I love it.
You mentioned something key, and I'm going to ask you a question. You mentioned something about, I guess I'll phrase it as the rarity of the quality of music. I interviewed Jeffrey Osborne one time, and he said, you got to realize, Troy, I was doing a piece on Skip Scarborough, and he said, you got to realize when we were rehearsing and doing everything, we were just rehearsing to be the band to get the next hot gig. Recording a project wasn't even in our mind. So we performed and rehearsed hard that our stage performance would be golden. That's why when you see the older groups perform, they can hit the stage and just, I put you in that light because when you hit the stage, it was just amazing. So you're right. By the time they recorded projects, all of a sudden you have this piece where these guys are, they're literally in a space where they're so excited about getting the opportunity. And we see the footage, we see the films and stuff. It's always one person in the back like, look, we only got one take now. Y'all wasting reel. Nothing was digital.
Yeah.
You couldn't keep doing, it wasn't punch. And he was like, Troy, we just wanted to get the next gig. He's like, these kids are recording CDs in their bedroom. This was back about 15 years ago in an interview.
Yeah.
And I think about it now in 2022. You're absolutely right. It's not saying that good music is still coming out, but the methodology you use and the fact that you talk about the college piece. You mentioned something. I got to go back to this. You mentioned that you got out the car, you got your stuff, everybody's going around orientation, and you start taking out music equipment. How many female vocalists, hip hop artists, stuff, and say, "Hey man, hey, what's your name?" Because they see you with the stuff. Go-go band.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, you know, it's interesting. So I went to Drew Hall first, which was the the male freshman dorm. So, and it's crazy because a lot of those guys I met that first week, I still work with to this day. You know, which is crazy. I just literally, one of my boys named Byron does a lot of music in China, and like he was one of the first guys. Like we just. And I just got an update. Like one of my boys, Wendell, was like, "Oh my God, I just talked to Byron. He's still in China." I was like, "Oh, that's crazy in China." And he's like, "Yo, his music scene is crazy out there." He's like, "I'm not coming back." But guess what? He was one of the first guys. Like, "Yo, what you doing with that keyboard?" You know, and yeah, and it was great. And I think it circulated really quickly around my freshman year. Like Shy Smith, who was of course in the female dorm, but it was quickly circulating. And she's of course an incredible artist and has been a voice for like all the stuff, every background vocal you hear, like American Idol and all those big shows. Like she's one of the main vocalists. Like she's had an incredible career as well. And it's just like that quick circulation of just meeting other artists that freshman year. And I think it made a difference. I was appreciative that my parents let me bring my equipment. I think as long as I kept my grades up, I could bring the equipment with me. And it was tough at first because, you know, the pull. My freshman dorm, no exaggeration, was never empty. It killed dating in any form or fashion because even when I wasn't in the room, somebody was always in that room working on music. Even when I was asleep, you could hear like somebody have headphones or you could hear the pattering on the keyboard. I would wake up to the tapping. I would look up and it'd be two people sitting in there working on music. I mean, it was just nonstop. Because think of it now, sure, every kid got a keyboard or got a laptop with some kind of beat program in it if they're interested. But back then, how often did somebody have, you know, a 4-track or a microphone or a keyboard that could program, you know? And it was so it was good. I think it gave us a big head start.
You said you went into college in 94, 93, 94, 94?
Well, I went into college in 92.
92.
The record deal came in 94.
Just to think about that time in music, you're talking about, like you said, let alone go-go and hip hop. You're talking about Boyz II Men and Jodeci.
Yeah.
Like you said, Shy, and they were there with you. You said they were at Howard.
I watched it. I watched, you know, one day the song plays on the radio from them just handing it to a DJ to like 2 weeks later they were on Arsenio. And then I think 3 weeks later they had to make an album in like a week and a half because the song was building up so fast. So you watched it like 1 second they were in a small dorm. And I remember I went to LA and watched them perform for a crowd and I couldn't even see the end of the crowd. It was a huge festival, just thousands of people. And it's like, golly, this kid. I mean, I think that's what the thing was. It was like, I'm so appreciative of them because it really showed us that this could happen. And it's bigger than just being like the dope artist at Howard. It was like, you know, we really can make this thing work. Like really, really make this work. And I think all of us kind of set our sights higher after that.
And your journey has been, I know I want to hear as much as you can talk about, but I want to hear the depths of it because maybe also because you have such a powerful last name, Roberson. You think about Paul Roberson. When I first heard Eric Roberson, I was like, God damn, are you related to Paul? Are you related to Paul? It's like, you know.
No, well, let me tell you what's even crazier. I mean, I've traced it back. If you look at read of his books, both our families are from Robertsonville, North Carolina. But outside of that, I mean, I've read every book you could possibly imagine on Paul Roberson. I'm a big huge fan, but there's no. I was trying to find us to be distant cousins. There's no relation.
One line.
From what I found. But yeah, I find so many similarities. We both played football. Both was deep in the theater. You know what I mean? And things of that nature. Both went from North Carolina to Jersey, which is just weird. That has nothing to do with being related or anything. But there's no relationship to it outside of that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and I know some people who are catching this interview, who are watching it, who are catching on IG, like wherever you catch it, YouTube, may have never heard of Eric Roberson. So you transition. It's kind of hard to get out that college scene because you figure from 92 to 90. When did you graduate?
97.
So from 92, were you still on campus or were you?
Yeah, during the Moon thing, I left for a year and a half, and then I came back and finished school.
Okay. So,
yeah.
And how was that? Were you?
It was, it's funny. I wrote about it. I think we talked about, I have this book coming out, and I wrote something really briefly about like setbacks, or should I say temporary prayers, right? I wrote this thing about, thank God he didn't answer my temporary prayers, right? And I wrote about how much I really prayed for that success that I wanted, that record deal that I wanted. And it's one thing about walking through the hallways while you got a song on the radio, while you got a video on BT, and things are moving, and I'm leaving town and go to LA, and I went on a tour with Elder Barge, and it's like, oh my God, it was so much excitement. And during that time, when it really started popping, I was still in class. I remember telling my parents, like, yo, it's getting crazy. I need to kind of focus on this. And I left, and as soon as I left, things just started drying up. The president of Warner Brothers left, and it was like, boom, boom, boom. I went to another label, that dropped. And then about a year later, I was kind of like, what is going on? And I went back to Howard. Went back, like, let me go back to school. While I'm trying to figure this out, let me at least go back to school, maybe finish up. I was there on scholarship, mind you, which was a blessing. And I remember going back and like cats like looking like, why are you back? Or just, or the whispers, like the same whisper, like, oh, that's to do with the record deal. And I was like, hey, that the dude that had the record deal. It was the same type of whisper, it was different. And it was humbling, man. It was really, really humbling because everything that I had grown had dried up. The money dried up. Everything, the radio wasn't playing anymore, everything. So for me, though, I find the blessing of it was it really centered me, and I became a better writer, a much better writer afterwards. I became a much better singer. I became a better student. My grades were different. And I became a better person. I became a much better person. And I think really, in all honesty, if that record came out in 94 and it had success, we wouldn't be talking now. I wouldn't still be doing music now. I think of most people that I think of that put out records in that era, or even how to say the stuff I was trying to chase and the success I was trying to chase at the time, most of them aren't really around like that, or at least creatively putting out records and stuff like that. And to me, that's what's fulfilling for me. I had 16 albums, been able to write really what's in my heart and my head, and just constantly evolve and have my fan base grow with me. So I look at it, man, and it's a blessing that it didn't happen then, because I wasn't really as ready as I would have liked to. Even though I prayed for it at the time, I was praying for something temporary, Right. And so it was tough.
God has a jack, like you said, he has a funny way of showing you lessons. But the jacked up part about it is that when you sit down, like, all right, God, I'm sitting here. I'm listening. You ain't gotta hit me over the head. What it is. And you get a call like, hey, we got a class open for you. Like, I'm still listening, God. What is the thing? Like,
right.
What are
But
you trying to
tell
say?
you, well, I'm at a point now, man, and I don't look for failure, but when things don't work, I sit up now. Like I want to say, I almost argue. Yeah, I get excited. I get like, because that's where I learn. When something doesn't work, for me, it's not like, it didn't work. Why didn't it work, everyone? It's more of like, all right, what did we learn here? Like, I can learn something, So I look at it differently. I mean, mind you, outside of there's way more things we're dealing with, pandemics and stuff like that. It's way more serious than what I'm speaking of. But just when like projects or things that you might map out and plan, I realize that all that stuff is for a reason. I've had enough things not work to direct me to what is going to work, that now I just trust the process,
Right.
wholeheartedly. And when something doesn't work, it's like, all right, what can I learn from it?
You take your hands off. Like, but
where am I supposed to be?
Here's an amazing piece. We always talk about creative control, artistic development, and all that stuff. How much of a blessing is it to know that you actually have you ever had to, or from what I see of your body of work, have you ever felt like there was a project in your 16 that wasn't a part of you? Somebody said you need to do this because you've been an independent artist before it was popular.
Yeah, never. I mean, every record has been because I felt I had a record. Like, I felt something special. Something gave me goosebumps. So I wanted to share in hopes that it would give somebody else goosebumps. It moved me, so hopefully it'll move somebody else. And that's always been the decision. Lessons, even with the song we have now, I don't know if I was on a trajectory of like, I want to put an album out. We wrote a song one night and it was like, oh, this was different. It was like, whoa, this like hit different. And I think I'm constantly recording. There's never a long period where I'm not recording. What happens is we record till it starts feeling right, till we go a different direction. And of course, with life, with every child, there's been an album. With marriage, it became an album. With travel and life or learning, during the pandemic, I made 2 albums. It's like just in the quietness, you hear stuff. So I've never been well with the heavy project aspect where like you have to do this or we're doing that. I could do it, but it's not necessarily my favorite thing. My favorite thing is always just listening. I sit down and go, what do I hear today? I chase it, and then from there, when I hear it, then the goal is, how do you make it tangible? How do you make it? How do you amplify it more? But that's why, like, also why, everybody says, why did you do a Christmas album? The people have been asking me to do Christmas albums for the last 12 years. And it's because, okay, I don't know if I can just sit down and be like, I'm going to make a Christmas album. I probably could but it's not what I hear every day, But when I hear it one day, a Christmas album might take 3 days to make, because it's just one day you'll hear it, like, oh, boom, and it's there. I'm at a point now, I'll be honest with you, I really believe this. I don't create anything. I find it. I'm really of that belief now, And so for me, it's not really about forcing it. For me, it's about being ready. I know how to write a song. So now I'm just waiting for the right thing to make me go, oh my God, yeah, write that. Something I experienced, something I witnessed, some conversation, a book I'm reading, whatever, something will spark something, and I'll go, press record, and capture it. And it's more about finding it, So there's no stress in it. It's and that's the blessing. Being independent, I don't have to appease an entire building, a marketing staff, a president of a label, A&R. It's more about, this is where I'm at, and hopefully whoever wants to join me and listen to it can do it. My first album is called Esoteric, only meant to be understood by a chosen few. It hasn't shifted. I might be working more to find who those chosen are, but it's not about like, if you don't feel my music, I'm not losing sleep. What I hope the goal is that you will find something that you feel then, and see that, we go on a different path. We move differently here, and we're trying something different. And get down if you get down. If not, go find it. Go find it, because it's out there.
There's one couple things as you were talking, I want to mention. But this is a question I had even before the interview started. And I try to stay Larry Kingish. Man, love it. Rest in peace, Larry King. Because Larry King sits down and people are like, Larry, why didn't you ask this? Ask what? I didn't read their book. I just wanted to talk to him. He was very much having a conversation with the person. So what was if you can remember, because I know there are certain songs that I remember. I don't know that. Well, as soon as I said I don't know, let me say it again. The one song that sticks in my head, since you're into love music, and I'm a sucker for love music. I tell people, love music is the thing. You're going through a breakup, and all of a sudden you hear in your head, dun, 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 dun. I hear "Cry Together" by the OJs, and if I'm writing a text, it's like, ain't nothing wrong with you, ain't nothing wrong with me. Like, I heard that before. What was the first love song? For me, I remember "Let Me Be Your Angel" by Stacey Lattisaw. Was the love song was so. I just remember having the 8. It was trying to go into the futuristic, but it was an 8-track in there, and it had the big radio light on there, and the record's playing, and she's hitting those. But I remember the party. My brother's 10 years older. He was having one of them parties, and "Let Me Be Your Angel" was on the radio. All I could see is the light on the radio, and some little girl pulling on me. I'm like. Girls are so advanced. Y'all so fast. She's like, come on over here and get I can't see nothing down here. What was the first love song you heard that made you say it just either you had to keep playing it or it just stunned you? That was one of the songs that I can remember where I can literally see it. At 46 years old, I can see that. I could see the whole atmosphere. I could close my eyes and see the whole thing. But that's how powerful love music is. It was the first love song.
It's so funny because I know that with hip hop. I know that with hip hop songs. I got to think about where I was. I mean, "Adore" keeps coming to me. "Adore" by Prince. Still to me is the ultimate love ballad. It's just to me like goodness gracious, and that's probably. But there's there's a couple, and for me. It's always been weird too, like "As We Lay" with Shirley Murdoch, which I didn't really understand it at the time. I was really young.
Hold up.
About
I tell people this joke. There was a sister, and I don't know where she is, Yumika Gardner, a phenomenal singer. We had people don't realize our high school talent shows. We had kids. We can talk about the kids now, but we had kids singing "Saving All My Love for You" by Whitney Houston, which was a song about an affair.
Yes. Yeah.
Mika Gardner sat on a stool at the high school and sung "As We Lay." Little boys, we sitting up there at the front of the stage like, you better sing that song, girl. What were we doing?
We ain't know no better. I mean, think about this. We had this conversation all the time about feelings, right? Like how many times "Reasons" was sung at weddings. It's like, dude, do you realize "Reasons" what they're saying?
One night stand.
It probably wasn't until recently, and I'm a writer, I really listened to the lyrics of "Saving All My Love to You." "Saving All My Love to You" is reckless. It's a reckless song, but it's like it's sung so beautiful to feel.
Oh, share. Hold up. So like I said, at Tarantino, the reason I'm saying this is because you mentioned something. As the harder points of life happened, you became a better songwriter, and it's funny that the songs that we think about, if even people just think about slow jams, it was like I was thinking about "Piece of My Love" by Guy the other day. Baby, you can't have all of me because
for me.
I'm not totally free. I can't tell you everything that's going on. "Piece of My Love" was the love song at the time. And it was like, the guy's like, a piece, just a piece.
For me, that song, like "Piece of My Love" doesn't get enough credit because to me it was like it's almost kind of like a lot of comedians talk about Richard Pryor. By no means am I comparing Guy to Richard Pryor, but what I will tell you is that at the time, even we're similar in age. I didn't know there was this whole other avenue I could write about. So "Piece of My Love" opened up a door for me that made me go, oh, wait a minute. When you think of Jodeci, like, for example, Jodeci was Hard Boys and Reckless, but they still sang of like full out commitment till they got a little bit like the second album, a little more reckless.
Right,
but
right.
so like I wasn't expecting, and I will say that they weren't the first to have like a raw subject matter like that, but most of that stuff would fly over my head when I was younger. You know what I mean? I was more about the feel of stuff. I didn't really realize what Prince was saying in Darling Nikki till I got older. You know what I'm saying? But when I was as a writer, when Piece of My Love came out, I was like, it opened up a whole nother avenue for me. And that happens with a lot of songs. When I think of Stevie Wonder's Blame It on the Sun, where he didn't necessarily make himself a victim. He said, my heart blames me. Like I was blaming everything for this going wrong. But when I got quiet, when I got home, I couldn't escape the fact that I messed this up. And it was like the lessons of like, preach to me. This is crazy.
Screaming in the room.
So it's like, oh, you can do that? You know, you can do that? And so I remember several moments of, oh my God, you can do that I gained. And it just, my pen got better and I just wrote more. And, you know, and I think even like, you know, when I look back at my career, and I'm known for writing, you know, some great love songs, but I would probably say I don't have been like I wrote some really sad stuff and some really introspective stuff. I mean, you know, you go through the whole gamut, and I think I love that because I love studying and dissecting songs, and I've learned from so many different things. So, you know, for me, I write where my heart is at the time or what I see. And those songs, like you said, Piece of My Love and Saving All My Love for You, you know, as we lay, I remember just dissecting that. I remember really early on, I think Elder Barge, and just the Barge in general, you know, I remember really studying going, this is different. Why is this song staying on me? It's like I couldn't get rid of it. Like I couldn't shake it. It was like, this song just got in my system, you know, and I was like, whatever that is, I want to do more of that, you know.
Brian McKnight talked about how Elder Barge is his favorite, you know, the McKnight brothers and Take Six and all them. They talk about different artists. He talks a lot about Steely Dan and some of those bands, but he says how Elder Barge is one of his favorite writers. And El was talking about when he wrote Time Will Reveal, 16. He was 16. Man. You know, to think about, you know, but you think about some of the songs you might have wrote then, but the song with you and Layla Hathaway, and I'm saying this because of the visuals. The visuals made me, when I watched the video for the first time, it gave me the same feeling I got when I saw the scene in Boomerang when Halle Berry cussed Eddie out and said, "You don't care about nobody but your damn self." You know, stay up out of my life. You know, slapped him. I was like, oh, how you gonna mess up with Holly? I got him in the movie theater. Like sitting there, I was like, no, man. So I'm sitting there watching it, and it felt like around the way. It felt like somewhere in DC or Baltimore. It felt like you had the normal thing. People get up there doing a little karaoke. Who came up with the concept for that? Or was that what you saw when you wrote the song?
No, so I've probably written 90% of my treatments for my videos, and a lot of times I'll see something while writing it, because a lot of times to write something you got to pull yourself to a place. You might need to pull yourself to a dark place or whatever, or a bright place. But I think when we had the song, we were trying to make the video. We were like, what would be the twist? I remember like yesterday. Talking with the staff and saying, and at the end, the guy punches me in the face, and they were like, "What are you can't get punched in the face in your own video." I said, "No, trust me." Like because it was real. Like if I try to kiss,
it's got to be real. Like you sitting there and the guy's like, he just reacts.
I know you're about to kiss my girl in front of me, in front of this part, you know. So, and it was probably one of the best decisions, like really sticking to my guns. Cause I remember that our team was like, yo, my barbershop got on me so bad. When the video finally came out, my barber was like, man, we're from Jersey. You can't get punched in the face on your own video. I was like,
that's when you know you hit the right chord. He was like, come on, man. You at least got to square up with dude. You ain't see him coming? It's like, dude, it's a
So, you know, trying to find that twist, and that I think the whole thing over that was like, here's the song. We really believed in the song, and how could we make a video that brings some kind of conversation, some kind of level of conversation. And that was one I think we did really well. It was shot by these amazing directors, Chris and Black, so I gave them the treatment, and then we went to Chicago, and the whole thing really came together. But yeah, it was funny. It was just try something different. It's like I don't think most artists will put themselves in that light, but I was like, hey man, it's fine. Let's do it. And later was great. Of course, she was down to join in with all the recklessness, so it was cool.
Right. I love it. I love it. Go back a little bit. You when I interviewed Will Downing, he mentioned how he was being before his name was ever known. Of course, he was doing background and got a chance to meet Luther, but he talked about the house music scene. He said, I was doing house music. I was the voice on house music. He said I had like 3 or 4 different names with my voice before I, became the artist I am now. And his journey is the same way. He's crafted the music that he wanted to do. I see a lot of that. You got similarities, but with Ebro, Don't Change in the house music scene, and I think he had a couple other joints, but that was just such a powerful, when I was getting DJs, when we had a club in Baltimore, Club 347, and house music night I made it Friday night. I was like, we need a Friday night dance party again, like back in the 90s we used to have in Baltimore, and like fantasies and all that. And Don't Change would come on and the place would go nuts, let alone your live version. But did you do a lot of that? Did you find yourself doing certain other genres? Do you just love different genres of music, and are you still open to a lot more other things like that?
Yeah, I'm from Jersey. You know what I'm saying?
New York, the club scene.
Right? Before we were going to hip hop clubs, we were going to house clubs. Every party I went to growing up, it was house music.
Right.
When you turn on the radio, before hip hop started playing the radio, at 11 o'clock, they would switch to house music, So of course, like my dad's bringing all this gospel, rock and roll, and all the different other stuff. Of course, we got my homies, older brothers bringing in hip hop, and then any level of partying to understand we knew musically was house music. And then we go to church on Sunday, and obviously choir rehearsal on Thursday and Friday, all these different days. So I had a lot of musical styles around me. So when it came time to create, be honest with you, we created all the stuff. I was rhyming over house beats and singing over gospel beats and trying to incorporate hip hop undertones in our R&B, like early on in high school. I don't think I really even took a minute to go, this was this. What I would tell you is that Tribe Called Quest was a big moment for me, because Tribe showed me that you could just combine all of it.
Right.
And I guess, to me, I think I would just say Native Tongues as a whole, because I think I don't give De La Soul enough credit in that aspect, or even Jungle Brothers. Like Jungle Brothers, I'll House You, that was all in that same area. Yeah. So it was kind of like unapologetically, if you feel a house beat, do you over house beat. If you feel over gospel, just do whatever. Combine it and just be you over whatever you're combining to make what you hear in your head. So I think Tribe Called Quest gave me the confidence to kind of chase it, even though the industry, to be honest, wasn't ready for that yet. It wasn't till, I think we the first introduction, like say hip hop R&B, was like more Jodeci, Come and Talk to Me, Mary J. Blige, and then came more like us cats who were growing more up listening to Al Green and Aretha, but we still loved hip hop, and we were trying to figure out how to combine it. And I think that's kind of where, really like the Jill Scotts and the D'Angelos and the Music Soul Childs we all came from.
The Native Tongue birth, the Neo Soul.
It came from that, So, but yeah, I love house music. To this day, I probably will be doing a house music album at some point. It just got, you just got to get. But once again, there's a culture to house music, so I want to make sure that I'm true to that. But even when you go back to Don't Change, the goal was to just write a great song. So I did that with my boy Oshun Day, and we sat down to write. It wasn't like, let's write a dope house song. Let's write a dope song. It just happened to be house music, and it took off one of the biggest records I've ever been a part of. And yeah, still gives the party right. You know what I mean? Still gives the party right.
I think that's what happened with, like, some people. If you like disco, you didn't like disco. I love disco. I love dance music. But if you think about the songs, Don't Leave Me This Way and the song Gloria Gaynor, and they were phenomenal songs.
Great
You know
songs.
what I'm saying? So,
Great songs.
so you're absolutely right. I think that's a key. You ever think you're going to start doing maybe some songwriters workshops or or have you done any songwriters workshops or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. I do songwriting workshops a lot, but I've been a professor at Berklee College of Music for the last 3 years now, going on 3 years now. So I'm in the songwriting department and been teaching songwriting and business of songwriting and stuff like that. That's been a real big blessing. But doing workshops, I do even do improv workshops. I really feel like I'm sure I'm still putting out a lot of music, but I'm in my give back part of my career. You know what I mean? So when I do have time, I'm constantly trying to share. And really, it's interesting because even like teaching songwriting, it's tricky, right? Because I don't want to hold myself to so much a teacher where I have to show you something. Sometimes it's right. Sometimes, a lot of times, the student might play something. I'm like, it's dope. There ain't nothing for me to tell you. Keep going. Because I don't want to, there's no need to dissect that. I think it's all about if it feels right, it's right. So it's not necessarily about showing you how to write a song. There's no right or wrong way to show a song. I'm more trying to strengthen how you write your song. You know what I mean? And then also to be an example that this can really, really work. I think that's one of the things that I looked for when I was 21 years old. I needed to see that this could happen. That's why Shy was so big for me. Or you watching like a Gordon Chambers, who was such a great songwriter.
Right.
Andrea Martin, who just unfortunately passed away, but she was such a great example of, wow, this is how you can make a living as a songwriter and this and that. There were great examples that I needed at the time because you enter in this unknown field, this dark hallway. So if I could give insight in that way, I'm always down to do it.
Awesome. I want to, and E is taking time out in the twilight hours. He's actually back on, even though he's in West Coast. He's traveling. He's all over the place. I'm in the West Coast. He's on the East. I don't want to hold you too long, but I guess in the next portion, I can't even say next portion because you have a lot of things that are coming out in these coming next 9 months. Probably you're birthing something new with the new project. How did Lessons come about? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Lessons came, I have people sending me music all the time. There's these amazing producers named Anakin and Vader from DC, and they sent me a track like one night, really late at night. They sent me a track. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. But they were like, I love you, love it. My fault. We sent it out to a whole bunch of people. Let me see what everybody's saying, who we sent to first. And if they don't want it, because immediately I was like, I want it. And I didn't even write to it yet. I was like, this is crazy. I want it. And then it probably wasn't until like 3 days later where they were like, you good. We didn't get no bites on it. I think I was like the third person or the second person they sent it to. So they wanted to at least make sure the first person they sent it to kind of passed or whatever. And it just so happened the night they called me, it was probably like, 11 o'clock, midnight or whatever it was. It was leading into the night of my anniversary. So when I went down in the studio during the pandemic, it was a little over a year ago, and turned the equipment on, it's probably 3 o'clock in the morning of my anniversary. And I don't know if it was necessarily like, oh, I'm gonna write a song about my anniversary. I think it's just the quietness of the pandemic and just kind of setting up the equipment. The kids are asleep now. And I think this more the line God had a funny way of showing you lessons kind of popped in my head as I was just setting everything up. It was the first thing I said. And it just showed, once again, you find it. But it was something about, I think, the morning of my anniversary, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's quiet. And I remember I just kind of, I don't know if I knew I had something really special. At that time, I was doing this for the whole pandemic, I would like film myself recording. I would just post it and go to bed. And some days you wake up and it'd be like 5 comments. So that was cool. And sometimes you wake up and it'd be 1,000 comments. And Lessons was one of those things where when I woke up the next morning, I had like, I don't know how many comments and how many people were like, yo, what is this? This is crazy. So I knew something it was like, okay, this was a little different. And the difference was instead of just like, here, everybody take it, I was like, let's take it back. Let's put some marketing behind it. Let's think about it. And then, a year later, we released it, we're like prepared. Like, here's the video, here's the marketing plan, here's the whole nine. And I think people see the difference in that. One, it's a special song, you know, it's a really special song. But I think it was just also, I'm a writer, and a lot of times I'm more thinking. If I think about, you know, how blessed I am to have the wife I have the kids I have, and, you know, in my career, the heartaches, the setbacks, they all got me to where I am today. So I wouldn't change not 1 second of it, you know. So I think it showed up in that song. It all showed up in that song. It showed up in that song, and people relate to it that way.
And you mentioned something about your friend from college earlier that you met, and he was like, "So what are you doing?" And you still keep touch today. You having a team, like I've known Sweet Locks for years, and how, and this is something people need to hear, I think, especially artists who consider themselves independent or feel like they're alone, feel like whatever. You said something key with lessons. You said, okay, let's take time with this. And a lot of times I think in the days of Spotify and all these other things, and let me put it out there and see, I know a lot of artists who put stuff out there. I was like, dude, so how are you monetizing that? And they're like, oh, I just want to see what the people think. I was like, that was never, it's not a problem, but I think part of the industry has led on to the shortness of attention span. Because some people say, oh, you don't want to put out a whole album, just put out an EP. Well, if some of these hip hop artists can still put out 30 songs, it's not an attention span thing. It's how you're doing it. You know, these hip hop, one thing we can say about the hip hop artists of today, they stay in front of people, good, bad, or indifferent. A lot of times if an artist is doing something, they step back, unless the artist is doing something like Tyrese or Tank, and I'm retiring. Then everybody started looking at him again, and he was like,
right.
But
right.
I like what you did with Lessons, and I like how you're doing it now. It's like bringing back to people's memory or showing them something new about love. But how important is your team in your decision-making process?
Team is everything. I mean, it's the difference of whether you're going to get something completed or not. And I mean that because it's, you know, for me, we're not always going to agree. We're not always going to be on the same page, but we all got to at least work together to something. And I think that's the great thing about my team is there's plenty of times where they'll say, hey, I think this is going to work. Should we try it? I'm like, shoot your shot. That's one of the things that we say in our meetings all the time. We all say, yo, shoot your shot. Let's try it. Success or fail. And I love the fact that if I have an idea and I say, hey, you know, I want to try and do this, that everyone buys in. You know, whether they understand it or not. Like, okay, we'll wait and see, and if it works, and sometimes it's not going to work. Like, all right, we tried it. All right, cool. What's the next one? And if anyone feels really adamant about doing something else, like, yo, shoot your shot. What you want to try. But, you know, for me, the most important word in the business is completion. And to really understand that word fully, you need a team. You can't do all of it all on your own. And, you know, especially with me, you know, I got a wife and the kids and stuff like that. You know, you can't spend all the time in just that. So for me, Sweet Locks, like I said, Sweet Locks Jarrell, who I've worked with for over now 20 something years now. Everyone there, it's very, very important. When you see the stuff that we're rolling out, it's a team effort. You know, it's a team effort. And I got a great team. It's a lot of us here, and it's more of a family than it's a team. But we're really blessed to have it work out.
Yes, indeed. Eric Roberson, we will burn that because I could be talking to you for hours. Like, and another thing, what do you think about the dynamics of, I ask you one more question and then we can close out and let people know how to get in touch with you. How important is love music in society right now?
It's deeply needed. I mean, it's very important because music as a whole, especially, you know, we keep going back to hip hop. Hip hop has always been a Polaroid shot of where community is, right? But love has been the anthem to a lot of our struggle, or shall I say it's the ginger to our palate. It cleanses the palate, right? And it's, if I'm really speaking on my personal belief, I think there's a ministry in all music, right? Even the most ratchet song still was created, which shows proof of creation, right? God allowed you to be able to create that. If I'm going really, don't stop, get it, right?
Right,
But
right.
but at the
Wow.
same time,
Wow. Okay.
right, right. But I mean, do we pray over our chicken fingers at strip clubs? Anyway, that's another story.
Right, right.
But yet at the same time, if you write love song that empowers a couple or strengthens someone's perception, that's ministering to them. You know what I mean? I remember a story, man, something a long, long time ago. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, or Memphis. It was in Tennessee. And I finished a show and I was signing CDs. And it was a line of people. This big dude, man, he had to be like 6'5", 290, huge dude, like just came and just walked in front of everybody, walked straight up to the table, straight up to me, like just walked past everybody. He was on a mission, completely focused. And he was like, yo, man, I never heard of you before. But this shit is a-" and I'm like, yo, man, there's a line. Like, we all just looking up at him like, all right, but I don't know what he was about to say. And this man said, I was divorcing my wife, and your song really spoke to me. It made me realize that she's not just doing everything wrong. There's certain things I need to strengthen. There's certain things I need to improve on. He's like, listen, man, I'm leaving here right now, and I'm going back to her and asking her to take me back, asking her to forgive me. And he just walked away. And that's the whole point of what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's God's work at the end of the day. Like, it's like, so.
What song was it? I'm like, dude, what?
I mean, it's so long ago. It was so. I feel like it was Obstacles, which is, it's funny because the song Obstacles, once again, is one of those songs where, like, it's just about a girl and running to the obstacles. Oh, she dated a friend of mine, and the obstacles, like, should we date or not? But I think the feel of the song, people have used for different things. At the same time, I mean, a brother came to me and he had just finished doing chemo. He said, man, I listened to that song over and over again while I was going through chemo. I was like, really? Like, but it's like, you take what you need to take.
Right.
And that's the thing about love songs. Like, because you can have faith-based songs which you strengthen your faith, but then there's other songs that help you strengthen your perception of what you're dealing with right now. Like how am I supposed to handle this situation with my girl? How I'm supposed to handle this situation with my brokenness or whatever? How I need to improve myself so that I can be seen or whatever, So love songs are important. Or like I said, once again, just get on the road, or man, kids are fine, even want to have an intimate moment and this and that and that. You set a tone. It's the seasoning. It's the seasoning of life, So we're gonna keep making it because it's important.
Eric Roberson, thank you, brother, taking time out with me on a late night tip. And how can people get in touch with you? Find out more about what you're doing, even with the classes and everything. But also, how can they get in touch with you so they can follow your journey, this journey with lessons in the upcoming project?
The main part will go to the website, Eric Roberson Music. You can find all directions from there. Of course, I'm really heavy on Instagram, which is Erro44, ERRO44. But also, another thing to keep people in mind is I have a thing called The Process, which is a group of people who follow me in the studio. So every song I do, every idea I do, every album I do, I make it in front of them. They get a copy of everything I do as I'm doing it. So they can see the process of what I'm doing. And we do a weekly podcast. It's been a fun thing. So you can just go to jointheprocess.com to become a member of that too. It's a real fun adventure in that as well. But yeah, I'm all over the place. Come join us.
Eric Roberson, aka E-Ro. Thank you, brother, for taking time out. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you.